Hey, friends, I'm breaking in. We pre-recorded our podcast. And so I just wanted to break in to say, as you are watching these podcasts, we are well aware of the devastation that has taken place all the way from the Gulf, all the way up to North Carolina and Western North Carolina. And we have been on the ground. We have been looking at where we can be of service to people who have been devastated by Hurricane Helene. So I want you to know that we are doing the work that we need to do to help people regain some sense of normalcy in their lives. And we have persons who are sending supplies and taking tarps, and they're bringing chainsaws and gasoline to those places that are in need. And they're on top of roofs, cutting off trees and helping people repair their roofs in their homes. I mean, they're doing so much significant work, but there's still so much work to be done. And friends, we need all the help and the volunteers that we can after the cameras are gone. Because once the cameras are gone, those persons who are affected by this hurricane are still in need. So friends, if there are ways that you can help with manual labor, with finances, please do so. We're called to be in mission and ministry with the least of these and those who are hurting. Thank you all for what you're doing now. Thank you for what you will do. And we are hopeful for our church and for our communities that have been affected. So please, we thank you for your leadership, your guidance, your service, your prayers, all that you are doing to help. But just know that we're holding everyone in prayer. So thank you.
Welcome to today's episode. My name is Rodrigo Cruz. I serve as the assistant to the bishop and your host. And I am joined by our fearless leader, Bishop Dease, the resident bishop of the Georgia Episcopal area of the United Methodist Church, and your co-host to this podcast. Our guest this week is Reverend Adriane Burgess, who is serving St. Mary's Road United Methodist Church in the South Georgiano Conference. Welcome, and thank you both for what is going to be a great conversation. Bishop, let's dive into it.
Hello. Thanks, Rodrigo. Reverend Burgess, it's good to see you. Always
Yes.
Good to see you. We go way back.
We do. We have some history.
That's right. That's right.
I was going to ask how back, but I won't go there.
Well, let's start with that question. Share how we know each other.
Well, I know Bishop Dease when she was Reverend Dease in the South Carolina Conference. That is my home conference. So I grew up in Greenville, South Carolina, and gosh, I think we're probably third or fourth generation of United Methodists, with my father's family starting in Anderson at Silver Hill. Mm-hmm. And so John Wesley is my home church, and Bishop Dease was appointed there as our pastor. So I have known Reverend Dease for a while, and she was very helpful to me as I think I was in seminary at the time, or just coming out of that and going into the appointment process, going through the boards and that sort of thing. So certainly appreciated that. And then, of course, those early years of going through ministry and that kind of thing.
And I'm grateful that her family was a big supporter of me at John Wesley. So that wasn't one of those families that gives the pastor a hard time.
No, they're not those families.
This book can be a very awkward episode.
That's right.
That's right.
They're good people. So I was grateful to serve as their pastor at John Wesley. But Adriane, thank you. Just thank you for your leadership, even in South Carolina. And now that you are in South Georgia and you're at St. Mary's Road, since you've been there, you've been doing something called dessert devotions. Tell us about that, because I didn't know you could cook.
Yes, and I'll be very specific. I like to bake, so the whole the Sunday dinner thing. I remember when I first got married, my husband was like, "How does that work?" I was like, "Oh, honey, it doesn't. It does not work like that at all. Choose whatever restaurant you want, and we will go there." But I love to bake, though, and I love desserts. And so I started Dessert Devotion actually during COVID. I had always wanted to do some kind of devotional series or something like that. And actually, one of my girlfriends challenged me and said, "Well, what could you bring that's unique to every other blog and podcast and vlog that is out there?" And so I combined two of the things that I really have a passion about. So I enjoy writing devotionals, of course. I enjoy teaching God's Word and the studies, and I love baking. So I put those two together. And so dessertdevotion.com is a website, and it's more of a blog because it has the videos that are on YouTube as well. And it combines sharing an easy dessert recipe along with a short devotional. And so during COVID, it also was a fun place to kind of hone my technology kind of skills too, because, the editing, the filming, the different social media platforms, when everyone was kind of doing that spin up, it's something I was familiar with, but really got to know the nuts and bolts of it, not only at church with helping my church get online, because I was a COVID pastor at St. Mary's Road. And so when I came there in the summer of 2020, it was me and a college kid and a cell phone. So I knew I had some work to do, right, to get us ready. So that was a part of that learning process in a fun way, in a creative way to do dessert devotions. And so it's been fun. One of the things it's helped me connect to my church members. They get to see a little bit more of who I was, especially at that point when we were not in person, to see this kind of vlog coming from my kitchen. And it also has helped connect with the community. I've done series like the Community Kitchen, where I asked people from the different food pantries and food banks, or other organizations that help with those who were trying to break that cycle of poverty, like Open Door, the Chattahoochee Food Valley, that sort of thing, food bank, and kind of interviewed them as a part of the dessert devotion, and then shared the recipe. So it's been a great outlet, I'll say, a creative outlet for me.
How often do you post?
It depends on my schedule, but I try to do a couple a month and post them on the website.
Okay. So now this is totally off, but from one cook to the other, or one baker to another. What kind of mixer do you use?
I have a KitchenAid.
There you go. There's
better believe
nothing
it.
better. I'm telling you,
Absolutely.
KitchenAid is the way to go. Every time you get the best desserts every time.
Every time. It's a
See,
game
you don't
changer.
understand that,
That's a
Rodrigo.
game changer.
I seen them on TV. What
Yes.
color is your KitchenAid?
Oh, I have the matte silver. I love it. Yes.
Me too.
I haven't had their hand mixer.
Okay.
It's
Let's
so
get back.
serious.
Let's
Yes.
get back. You got a question, Rodrigo?
So, what has been your favorite baking item?
My favorite thing to bake are pound cakes. And in a KitchenAid is even more fun. Okay, and I just love it's a very simple recipe that you can kind of change in different ways. You just start with your basic butter, flour, sugar, and it just can't go wrong from there. So I enjoy doing that. But actually, my challenge with the dessert devotion is to do the easier recipes. So I think about the people who live a life without a KitchenAid mixer, that have, just the hand mixer, or maybe they're new to baking and they want to try the recipe. So my latest dessert actually was a chocolate ricotta mousse, where you only need a blender and there's no baking at all. So those who just want to try something to entertain, they can do that. So I actually challenge myself to do things with fewer ingredients, so it's easier for everyone to try.
What nice.
So do you choose the devotional part first and then the dessert that matches that, or vice versa?
Oh, that's a good question. It's happened both ways. Really, this time around, it was a 2-ingredient dessert. And so it inspired the devotional as I thought about getting back to the basics. And so now the devotional ended up being about some of the basics, what I call the blocking and tackling, right?
Yes.
Of what it means to be a follower. And so it was about getting back to worship and what that meant for personal worship, and also recommitting to communal worship and what that looks like nowadays. Yeah.
And what kind of feedback have you been getting from your posts, your blogs, and your recipes?
Yeah, it's been really great. I get questions about the devotionals, and then it's been really neat that people actually try the recipes. So that really challenges me to write it down correctly, and be more specific. I have my shorthand, and then people will say, so then what do you do? I'm like, oh, okay. I need to be more specific now for people who are not bakers to know what this means. So it's been fun to know that people are trying the recipes and that sort of thing. And even with my kids, they've now gotten into it. So my son made a mug cake the other day, and so he's waiting for me to do an episode with him
What's a mug cake?
It's this whole thing that's viral, like on TikTok, where you can make different type of like cake desserts in a mug.
Wow.
And so you're just using a few tablespoons of this or that, and it makes
Wow.
just one serving. And so he's gotten to that. So he says he wants
Oh,
to do a
wow.
dessert devotion junior
Yeah.
and, do the mug cake. So we're going to do one of those together.
Oh, that sounds fun. That sounds fun. That's a way to get kids engaged, especially engaged in the word, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right.
Well, especially to get PKs too, right? I mean, the fear is that,
Yeah.
we'll take them to church the whole time and they'll be bored. But now you bring in Jesus to them in the kitchen.
Yeah. I actually did a special series for confirmation, and I used the baking to teach about John Wesley's 3 simple rules and show them how to make
Nice.
ice cream at home. And so that's the way I did my portion of it when we did a completely online confirmation series that year. So it is a way to get, the kids interested and involved, definitely.
So I'm afraid to ask this, but so how do you do harm in the kitchen?
Okay. Can you do harm in the kitchen? Yes, you can.
Yes,
if
you
don't know what
can.
you're doing.
Yeah. Just wash your hands really good. It usually goes well from there,
So it really seems to me that these devotions and dessert, it came out of passion, right? That is your
Yes.
passion. So makes me wonder, there is somebody out there, right? Clergy, laity that are trying to match their passions with their calling. Any words of advice for them?
I would say one of the things that I have many roles, so I work as a senior pastor. I'm a wife. I'm a mom. I serve in the Air Force Reserves as a lieutenant colonel. And so when you have these different roles, sometimes there's a tendency to divide yourself into these different identities. And I think that what Dessert Devotion showed me was don't try to be this person over here who likes to cook for their friends at home, and then this pastor who does the sermons and the Bible studies, and then this person who does reserve duty and puts on the uniform, and then this, but think holistically about being the same person everywhere. And I'm not trying to accuse someone of being fake or anything like that, but it's just more of sometimes we stress ourselves when we try to be certain people or be in a certain role in certain places, instead of letting those silo walls down to say, I'm going to be the same person everywhere and allow the strengths that I have in this area to inform that one. So just like I allow my organizational skills from being in the military to inform ministry, I'll allow my hobbies to inform how I teach, the Bible studies. And so doing more of that, you're taking the different strengths from your different roles and really bringing them together. And I think that it just gives you more energy, and it just kind of really pushes you forward when, like you say, you're working in your passions.
Oh, that is awesome. That is awesome. Thank you for sharing. So, Adriane, one of the things that we do in the podcast is now let you ask any question that you want to Bishop Dease.
All right.
From baker to baker.
I have a 10-part question.
Oh,
No.
my gosh.
I find that for me, I like to do procrastinating when I want to hold off. I like to do inspirational baking. Sometimes I do grief baking, It's a comfort thing. It's kind of self-care. It's a hobby. I've noticed in the past few years, our conferences have really focused on self-care with our pastors and taking time to do those kind of things like hobbies and things like that as a part of our self-care. So for you, how do you stay grounded? And I guess it's a question of nurturing your faith or focusing on that self-care. What do you find works for you with all the pressures you have?
Oh, that's easy. I find I usually, in order to stay grounded and remember that, that I am human, is I surround myself around friends who could care less whether I'm a bishop or not. I'll leave it right there. And what that means is they could care less, but they're going to speak honestly and truthfully. They're going to joke honestly and truthfully.
Yes.
And it's sort of a way of one where I'm reminded that I can laugh and I can be myself. I can make mistakes. I can be criticized in ways that are loving and affirming and fun. And so I find that when I'm my authentic self is when I surround myself around people who don't feel like they have to put on or pretend to be something they're not around me because I'm Bishop. So I tend to find my grounding with people who could care less or don't even know what it is to be a bishop. You know, they just know me as Robin.
Right.
And
So you
that's
stay
what
in
I
touch
appreciate.
with
Yes.
your
And I
authentic
appreciate
self.
that. It just reminds me that I'm human and that I will make mistakes and I can laugh at dirty jokes and whatnot in the right company, around the right people, you know, who really, you know, see me as Robin and not so much are, you know, drawn or attracted to a title. So that's kind of how I like to stay and be reminded that I'm human and that, you know, I make mistakes.
Yes.
Yep. So,
Yeah.
Well, fantastic. Thank you both for this just wonderful conversation. To the listeners, if you want to keep learning more from Reverend Adriane and how to live into your passion, you can find her contact information right here on the show notes.
and try some of those desserts too. And Adriane, you're going to have to cook us something over here too. Now that I'm over in South Georgia as well.
That's right. That's right. I'll be
I
sure to
expect,
bring you.
that's right. That's right. I expect some of those desserts.
And we expect you to bring some of those up here. Up
Hopefully it makes it back to the
75.
office, right?
That's right. We'll be following your blog and your devotionals. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. One more time, one of the blessings of being one Georgia Episcopal area is the opportunity to strengthen and witness, our connection.
Yes.
So I want to invite the listeners that this week you join us in prayer to opportunities to match your passion and your calling and see where God leads you in that way. Thank you both one more time for today. And this has been the One Georgia podcast, produced by the North and the South Georgia Communications Department and recorded by our stellar audio and video professional, Robbie Pancake.
All right.